evening. Jamaica has recorded 47 new cases of COVID-19 and 2 additional deaths in the last 24 hours as a result of the virus. Now, the Ministry of Health and Wellness said the latest deaths are a 64-year-old male from St. Mary and a 70-year-old male from St. Catherine. The country's total deaths since the outbreak now stands at 217. However, the ministry also reported the coincidental deaths of a 93-year-old male from Kingston and St. Andrew and a 72-year-old female from St. Catherine. 3 more deaths were also reportedly placed under investigation. The ministry says the new cases are comprised of 26 males and 21 females, ranging in age from 10 to 74 years. The country's total confirmed COVID-19 cases now stands at 9,373, of which 4,287 are active. Of the newly confirmed cases, 17 are from St. Catherine, 11 are from Kingston and St. Andrew, 4 are from Trelawney. Clarendon, St. James and Westmoreland recorded 3 cases each. St. Anne and St. Mary recorded 2 cases each, and Manchester and St. Elizabeth recorded 1 case each. The ministry says one of the new cases is a locally transmitted case. 3 cases are contacts of confirmed cases, and the other 43 cases are under investigation. Additionally, the ministry reported that 41 more patients have recovered from the virus. Now, this takes the country's total recoveries to 4,745. Still making news tonight, with face-to-face classes scheduled to resume on a pilot basis at 17 schools next week, Prime Minister Andrew Holness is imploring parents to keep sick children at home amid the continued challenges with the coronavirus COVID-19. The Prime Minister said, and I quote, "If someone else's child is ill, the likelihood is that your child could get ill. So if you are ill yourself as a parent, if your child is ill, then you have to ensure that based upon the Disaster Risk Management Act and the orders in that act, that you don't send an ill child to school." End quote. He also reminded parents that they play an integral role in ensuring that students and teachers at the schools their children attend remain healthy. He also urged the Education Minister to engage the parents during the pilot exercise to ensure that they are cognizant of their roles. In news from the capital, in a presentation at the University of the West Indies Mona Western Jamaica campus's first Caribbean Sustainable Cities Conference, the British High Commissioner to Jamaica says 250 million people globally will eventually have to relocate due to the continuous climate change situation. More on this story with Killeen May.
The British High Commissioner to Jamaica, His Excellency Asif Ahmad, is urging persons to pay close attention to the global climate changes and the effects it is having on the world's population. His Excellency Ahmad, who was the keynote speaker at the University of the West Indies Western Jamaica campus Caribbean Sustainable Cities Conference yesterday, pointed out that 250 million people globally will have to relocate due to the continuous climate change.
There is irrefutable scientific evidence that if nothing changes by 2050, 250 million people around the world will have to move away from rising water. And the list of cities that will change forever will astound you. So I know I don't have to say this to you here, but there are still many who simply want to ignore all of this, and I want you to ignore the ignorant and listen to the combined wisdom of both the ordinary folk and academic know-how and knowledge. But you know, Mother Nature, not just through the pandemic, in many, many ways is telling us something very straightforward and simple. We simply have to change. Urban development cannot ignore geography, science, and the impact on the human spirit. Our cities, as they evolve, our future cities, cannot be designed on the basis where people and animals and nature cannot coexist. We have to build that in from day one. We simply cannot carry on as we are and as we have been. Ladies and gentlemen, for everyone at this conference, the message is clear. Urban development has to change and become truly sustainable. And if we do not take deliberate and committed steps towards sustainability, then the very concept of urban living will become unsustainable.
The British High Commissioner to Jamaica cautioned that in developing urban cities, the poor should not be ignored.
As cities grow because the rich want to build houses and build office buildings and towers, the first thing that they do is they displace the poor. So in the rush to build ever more secure, gated communities and iconic office buildings, we shut out the very people we need to build them. There may come a day when such people, rural people, and the poor will say, enough. They are not prepared to sacrifice their quality of life so that we can have a better quality of life as city dwellers. Is it any wonder that as we impose lockdowns because of COVID, and we ask citizens to observe social distancing in the Caribbean cities and in Europe, is it any wonder that there is a resistance or it doesn't work? Well, if you're asking people who already live 10 to 15 in a room to isolate themselves in that space, it is simply not humanly possible or tenable, and nor should we be expecting people to comply with such restrictions.
His Excellency Ahmad also outlined that in developing urban cities, the building regulations must be updated and enforced.
Here in the Caribbean, you have excellent building regulations, but we are many, many years beyond that period, and they need to be updated. The materials used, the kind of buildings needed are very, very different. But not only do the regulations need to be updated, they also need to be enforced. And whether it's the environmental impact study or everything else, it is not a form-ticking exercise. If you cut corners then we will face the problems that we face today of built-in dangers in our urban built environment. As part of this, we need to address energy efficiency as well. And we need to follow in the Caribbean what is happening in many other parts of the world, where there's an interaction between the power generators, businesses, and domestic users of power to be able to generate some of their own through solar and other means, and to be able to sell the excess power into the network, wheeling. People talk about it over here. Lots of feasibility studies are being done, but what we haven't seen yet is implementation, and I'm hoping that the new energy minister will pursue this energetically. Rainwater collection has to be built in to the building specs right from day one, not as an afterthought, not as an ugly add-on, but intrinsically a part of our building's design, because we're not always going to be fortunate with rain at the right times, as climate change has shown us. We are overrun with sewage, and the pristine beaches and brochures that you see betray another reality, which is that they're carrying dangerous levels of untreated sewage. And the sewage systems are not just about getting the unnecessary stuff out of your buildings. They themselves are part of the answer of detecting and dealing with pandemics.
The 3-day conference being held at the Hilton Rose Hall Resort and Spa in St. James have been focusing on the Caribbean attainment of sustainable cities and communities, which sets to end tomorrow evening. Reporting for Mello TV News, I'm Kayleen May.
Continuing with the news tonight, as continuous flooding occurs across the country, Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries Floyd Green is warning that the Christmas period could be hard hit as agricultural production is being affected due to farms being flooded. More on this story with Tamara McHale.
Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries Floyd Green says the sector's plans for the Christmas period have taken a major hit due to the recent flood rains. He made the assessment following yesterday's tour of farms in Ebony Park Tollgate in Clarendon, which has been one of the hardest hit parishes.
It is a tremendous loss for farmers in Ebony Park, Agri Park. A number of them are seeing upwards of 50% loss of their crops that they would have had in the ground, and at the worst possible time, because a lot of them are getting ready to reap, getting ready to get their crops for the Christmas period. As you know, our farmers would plant with the different seasons and the different markets in mind, and a lot of them now were really banking on a bumper crop for Christmas. And I think a lot of them, despite COVID-19, through the work of the ministry, work of entities like AIC, a lot of them got the confidence to go back out into the field to plant. So we were seeing actually higher yields. We're expecting higher yields for this Christmas, but unfortunately the rains have come, so we're seeing greater loss.
He observed as the tour party journeyed through flooded fields where the water rose to knee height in some areas. Damaged crops were also seen floating in the flood waters. We spoke with one of the farmers, Dennis Jackson, who explained how much he has lost.
Well, he came and he saw what happened and he gave us his word, so we just have to leave him to his words as the minister. Farming is, our bread and butter, and once you lose crops, then you lose your earnings. So I'm not in a good feeling now. We came and have a first-hand look to see what's really took place. Well, it gone into the tens of thousands. Looking at it, it gone into the tens of thousands. I had some sorrel I put in for the Christmas. I had some potatoes. Given the fact that it's, natural phenomenon, the weather, we cannot do anything. Just have to wait until the weather ceases and then we pick it up from there again. Well, actually, Christmas is less than 2 months away. Less than 2 months away, so we just have to play the waiting game. Maybe it's gonna be a sad Christmas, but we have to just accept it so we have a sad Christmas.
Minister Green said the losses will be hard for farmers to absorb since many of them were just recovering from the setbacks caused by COVID-19. For Mello TV News, I am Tamara McHale.
In the meantime, cattle owners who are not registered with the National Animal Identification and Traceability System before the end of January 2021 will face restrictions in terms of the movements of their animals. Chief Veterinary Officer in the Veterinary Services Division, VSD, of the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, Dr. Osbill Watson, is encouraging cattle owners to take advantage of the free registration process at this time. He urged that this is something that the government has implemented for the good of the nation in terms of food safety and in terms of animal health. He added that the good thing is that right now it is at no cost to the farmer, so they should maximize on the use of it to benefit the entire nation. Back in the capital, the police are seeking the public's assistance to find 79-year-old Lloyd Johnson of Sandy Lane in St. Andrew, who has been missing since November 3. Now he is of brown complexion, slim build and about 5 feet 5 inches tall. Reports from the Duhaney Park Police coming into our news center tonight are that Johnson was last seen at the Duhaney Park Health Center at about 1 p.m. His mode of dress at the time is unknown. He has not been heard from since then. Anyone knowing the whereabouts of Lloyd Johnson is being asked to contact the Duhaney Park Police at 876-933-428-0, Police 119 Emergency, or the nearest police station. In a news update tonight, a suspect who was being sought by the police in connection with a case of double murder and wounding with intent in Westmoreland on September 30 has turned himself in. 21-year-old Brandon Yuan of Hudson Street in the parish turned himself into detectives at the Major Investigation Division yesterday. Now, reports coming into our news center are that at approximately 6:55 p.m., Yuan and another assailant entered a shop on Hudson Street and opened fire, hitting 3 persons, 2 of whom succumbed to injuries, namely 22-year-old Roger Reed and 24-year-old Anothika Wedderburn. Yuan was subsequently charged. Meanwhile, police are seeking 29-year-old Andre Hines, otherwise called Bunny, who is the other suspect named in the incident. He is being urged to turn himself in immediately, and anyone knowing his whereabouts is being asked to contact the Savannah Lamar Police at 876-955-2758, Crime Stop at 311, or the nearest police station. Still making news tonight, one man is to face the court to answer to the charges of illegal possession of firearm and illegal possession of ammunition during a joint police and military operation on Merv Lane, Vietnam District in St. James yesterday. Reports from the Barrett Town Police coming into our news center are that at about 1:30 p.m., law enforcement officers were in the area when a premises that was occupied by the man was searched. One Uzi submachine gun with a magazine containing 15 9mm rounds of ammunition was found. He was subsequently arrested. His identity is being withheld pending further investigations. Still making news tonight, the government of Jamaica, in partnership with the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, launched the Jamaica Investment Map yesterday. Now, the map is an online interactive portal that tracks the country's public investment projects and makes information available to citizens in a user-friendly map-based format at publicinvestmentmap.gov.jm. Now, Jamaica became the first country in the English-speaking Caribbean to join the IDB's Regional Investment Map initiative. In recent years, Argentina, Colombia, Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, Paraguay, and Peru have launched investment map platforms under the initiative, and more countries are joining. And those are the stories making news. I return with a recap. We'll now take a break and then join Christopher Scott with sports.